All right. I got this. If I can find my camera. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel. Hope you're doing well on this Friday night or maybe Saturday morning for some of you. Saturday afternoon, maybe even. So I'm going to dive into Nanci Danison's NDE. It's really got a few moments in there. Her NDE is a little more unique, but it's got some key moments in there that are really, really crucial to understanding our power and abilities in or when we leave this body, not just in the astral, because the astral would imply that, you're sticking around, and sticking around in the astral means you're sticking around in the matrix. The astral realm, from everything I can tell, is fully linked to the earth realm, and they work in unison to keep this perpetual cycle going. And there's likely possible other physical realities out there that fall under the umbrella that we have no idea about. But putting all that aside, what's more important than liberation? What's more important than not having to answer to entities or beings that you have no clue if they have your best interests at heart? And one of the things I do on this channel, for anyone new, is dissect NDEs and all sorts of things, past life regressions, pre-birth memories, breakthrough trip reports, or some that aren't breakthrough, and various other things to help and reincarnation cases to try and bring in the overall big picture of what's going on here. And the big picture is that we're all being taken for a ride, a massive ride. And the only way to see it is to really dive deep into all these things and always do your own research. This area of research is probably the most rewarding thing you can ever look at. And it's the most valuable. There's nothing more valuable than this, because what it does is give you an outlet to take control of yourself when you leave here. And Nanci's going to show us that importance. And it's up front and center. And she doesn't hide it at all. She tells you what's that. Yes, where the quote specifically that you see on your screen, your life is directed by focus. When you are in the afterlife, whatever you turn your attention and intention to, you experience. And I had turned my attention to people on earth and how unfair I felt it was. Okay. And, there's a whole bunch of things that unravel in our R&D, but anyways, I'm not going to keep blabbing. Let's just pop right into it. Okay. Okay. Oop, yep. Forgot I did that. Okay, here we go. This is Nanci Danison. And just so you guys know, she does have a YouTube channel. And I'll pop up a link in the chat towards later part of the show, towards the end there. All right, here we go.
Nanci, I want to talk about your beyond death or near-death experience so that we can learn about it as much as possible. I prefer that you just give us a synopsis from a chronological viewpoint of what the events were that led up to, and then the events of your beyond death or near-death experience.
The one event that led up to it was I was at the James Cancer Hospital for an excisional biopsy of my right breast, and because I didn't have a lump that could be felt, I had calcium deposits. The only way the surgeon would know where to cut was by use of a mammogram, which would show the calcium deposits on film. So there's a procedure called a needle localization procedure that a radiologist performs, where the radiologist sticks a needle in to the area that the surgeon's supposed to cut around, and then pulls the needle out and leaves a wire in place. So that's the marker. It was in the course of, I think we went through that whole process twice. The second time, after the radiologist and the technician left to get the 8th set of mammogram films developed, right after they left, I did too. I was just sitting there in a chair, and I knew I was going to pass out or faint or something. And I tried to yell for somebody. Once I realized I couldn't do it, I just went with it. I went into the light, as all near-death experiencers do. I spent a lot of time in the light, just having knowledge deposited into my mind. I call them knowings.
Okay, so having knowledge, what was that? Deposited into her mind. Deposited. That's her word. Her words.
As all near-death experiencers do. I spent a lot of time in the light, just having knowledge deposited into my mind. I call them knowings.
Isn't that kind of a little contradictive? And I'm not, whatever, Nanci's experience is Nanci's experience, but she's saying deposited, but they're also all knowings. But are they all knowings coming from Nanci if they're deposited? Deposited implies that they're coming from an outside source, that something is depositing it, like depositing money into a bank account. But all knowings can be maybe kind of misconstrued. You get what I'm saying. I don't need to hash this one out too much.
I spent a lot of time in the light, just having knowledge deposited into my mind. I call them knowings. I briefly saw my physical body back in the mammography room below me. I knew at that point that I was dead. It had not occurred to me before then. I spent a little bit of time manifesting physical reality and understanding that we do in fact manifest what humans experience as physical reality.
We do in fact manifest what humans experience in physical reality. That's a big statement.
I spent a little bit of time manifesting physical reality and understanding that we do in fact manifest what humans experience as physical reality.
So, the reason why that statement's important is because it shows that even though we are limited here in our meat suits, we also have the ability to be creator beings while we're here. Now, the way it plays out in the physical reality is totally wacky. You can either hit it on the head and get what you want, or you can get what you want in some weird way at times, or not necessarily what you want, but it will manifest itself in a weird way that will give you the inner knowing that it's because of that intention, but it may not be what you want, but it'll be more symbolic. I mean, that's how this matrix seems to work. It's manifestation is a really weird thing, but it's It's part of our inner selves. It's part of who we are, but it just plays itself out in such a different way than the way it is inside of the astral realm. Or, when we are in our true organic form, it's like boom, boom, boom when you're out there. When you're here, it's all over the map.
I spent a little bit of time manifesting physical reality and understanding that we do in fact manifest what humans experience as physical reality. I then met 5 beings of light who are my dearest friends, and I recognized them.
And I recognize them, my dearest friends.
They said to me that they ran ahead of the rest of us to welcome me home. And I understood at the point that they said the rest of us, that they meant the source, because all of us are one being within source.
The rest of us equals source in her eyes.
Rest of us to welcome me home. And I understood at the point that they said the rest of us, that they meant the source, because all of us are one being within source. I also understood at that point that that's where I had been prior to this incarnation into this body. I had completed all my incarnations into physical form. I had evolved my way back to the source. I had dissolved into the source.
But remember, she's on Earth.
To this incarnation into this body. I had completed all my incarnations into physical form. I had evolved my way back to the source. I had dissolved into the source, and I no longer existed as a separate personality. But for
no longer existed as a separate personality.
some reason, when the source was asking for volunteers for people to come here to help with this transition to the next epoch, I said,
okay. I mean, it moves really quick, and there's a lot in this NDE, so I am going to be pausing it a lot. I'm sorry. I will leave a link afterwards if you kind of want to go through this without my interruptions. But it's got the Dolores Cannon Wave of Volunteers thing kind of going on. But we see constantly in these NDEs that people are told they have missions, they have things to do, and it's just par for the course. So she's being told all this stuff, even though she may be kind of implying, there's all this knowledge. Not all this knowledge is organic. It just simply is not. It's received knowledge, probably with a combination of the memory wipe and also, what the Matrix wants her to know in order for it to get a successful result. She's already, beeline for the light. She's already completely complied all the way. So she's in a situation where she is essentially bowing down, merging with Source, hanging out with their soul group friends, which, all this stuff is just, it's a recipe to be controlled by exterior entities and not have a sovereign path. So you're going to get what they give you. And because of those other belief systems too, and how, and you'll see how they unfold too. But here.
But for some reason, when the source was asking for volunteers for people to come here to help with this transition to the next epoch, I said, pick me, and here I am.
So she wasn't done. Pick me, pick me. Remember, she said that she was merged with Source, okay, before this incarnation. So that means, according to her, means that she did a bunch of incarnations already, and according to what she said earlier, she had completed her time, but merged with Source at some point after these were completed, and then Source comes through and says, "Hey, Nanci, what's up, girl? We got a new epoch going down at Earth, girl. Come on, we got a hip hop down there." And Nanci's like, "Hell yeah, hook me up." And she goes down. Because you know what? Nanci's not dealing with the real source. Nanci's dealing with the parasite system. And she doesn't know any better. It's not her fault. My heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to all these people. But point is, she is far from finished. As long as she does not take control of her own destiny, it ain't gonna matter.
When the source was asking for volunteers for people to come here to help with this transition to the next epoch, I said, "Pick me," and here I am.
Those 5 bodies of light, were those people you knew in this life?
No, they were I guess people would call them a soul group. They were the entities who were thought of at the same time I was, and I had spent my eternal life with them.
It sounds like they comforted and reassured you. Did they advise you?
Okay, before he can... Again, there is a lot in here. She puts out a lot. I mean, she brings up soul groups, which, you know, we've talked about ad nauseum, about the past life regressions and how the soul groups and pre-birth memories, both those topics completely expose the how we are in these soul groups and commune with them, and we basically kind of reassure the illusion that the whole system is on the up and up, and that, you know, everything's for our spiritual progression, and a lot of all the same song and dance we talk about all the time. But it's important because I have to point it out, because, you know, we're looking at an NDE, but in order to dissect soul groups and how they all link into this, you have to dive into past life regressions and pre-birth memories. That's where kind of the multiple topics kind of converge and help prove the Matrix reincarnation soul trap to yourself through your own research. Or if you'd like, I have done cover-to-cover commentary on Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, and you can find those playlists on the homepage of the channel, or it's located in the Matrix Reincarnation playlist. I do highly suggest listening to Journey of Souls first and then Destiny of Souls to get the full picture. It's a long series, but if you really want to see it in action and have your jaw dropped on the floor, it's worth the time.
Entities.
Or you can go through it yourself. You know, you can go through the books yourself and make up your own mind.
Who were thought of at the same time I was, and I had spent my eternal life with them.
It sounds like they comforted and reassured you. Did they advise you?
No. In fact, they didn't comfort or reassure me. What
this is where it gets weird.
They wanted the scoop. They wanted the story of my life. They wanted to see and live and experience what I had just experienced as Nanci, because they had not been in a physical body for ages and ages.
So you were on the incoming bus, and they wanted to take that bus and turn it around and go back out.
It was a new movie on an island where there'd only been one movie for ages and ages.
You gotta admit, the way she says it is interesting. You know, it's the only movie on the island for centuries and centuries. I mean, it's just it's different, because we do not really hear all that often about entities wanting to see the near-death experiencers or live the near-death experiencer's life script through them, just for fun. I mean, that's not a thing that is really seen, I'll be honest. So just keep that in mind.
Ages and ages.
So you were on the incoming bus, and they wanted to take that bus and turn it around and go back out. It
was a new movie on an island where there'd only been one movie for ages and ages. They experienced my life, and while they were doing that, and it was during a life review, but it wasn't the kind of life review that other near-death experiencers get, because it wasn't for my benefit, it was for theirs.
It's just very strange. It's very, very strange. Um, you know, I should have said this at the beginning, but you know, this is an NDE you do have to apply a little more discernment to, because the patterns are different. You know, I mean, actually some of the patterns don't exist. I'm sorry. I mean, or the narratives are flipped and in a percentile that borders on non-existent. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just, you know, it just means that there's some anomalies in here, right? In the anomaly.
And while they were doing that, and it was during a life review, but it wasn't the kind of life review that other near-death experiencers get, because it wasn't for my benefit, it was for theirs. While they were doing that, I fused back into the rest of my energy. I got back all my eternal memories, all the hundreds and thousands of physical lives I had lived as all different kinds of beings. And I got the more complete access to universal knowledge. I'd been getting, you know, downloads of what I call knowings all along.
All along when?
During my near-death experience.
During this
as soon as I got into the
time.
light.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I got into the light, I started getting the knowings.
Soon as I got into the light, I started getting the knowings. But remember, she said deposits. But then she said she liked to call them inner knowings, but they were deposits. Again, exterior entity transmitting to her. She's in the light. She's behind enemy lines, personified, and is absolutely prone to being manipulated because she's in their world. She's in their realm, and we've seen it time and time and time. I mean, how many times can we go over it? It's so obvious that this is a control mechanism. And if you're there, and if you decide to consent and move forward, go through the tunnel, go through the light, or interact with these entities, it's you're all but cooked. So remember, the whole point for all of us is to not allow that to even occur when it's our time to cross over. You know, not cross over, but to leave our bodies and go to our true organic form. Because crossing over kind of imply that we're going there, and that's just sure as hell not happening.
Getting, you know, downloads of what I call knowings all along.
All along when?
During my near-death experience.
During this
as soon as I got into the
time.
light.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I got into the light, I started getting the knowings.
Time made no difference. It could have been 20 minutes, but it could have been 20 years. It didn't make any difference that way?
My understanding is that I lived. I mean, I completely died. I was gone from this life, and I was living in what we call the afterlife and progressing through levels of evolution very quickly, because I'd done it all before.
Damn, Nancy's a pro out there. She's a pro. She was progressing really quickly, but you know what they say sometimes it's funny, in the past life regressions, we hear some people who are told that they are progressing quickly, and then we have others who have 5,000 lifetimes of working on empathy. I mean, it's like I guess it's kind of it depends on the spirit's nature, right? I think it depends, you know, how easy are they to fool? How easy are they to just go along with the show and buy into the illusion that they're in? I mean, and you know, that's something that is a case by case type of analysis, and it's simply impossible to apply like on a big scale. We just know that there are two subsets of, well, actually there's three. There's some that kind of question a little bit, but they're still in the illusion and still caught up in buying into the bullshit. And then there is another set of beings who just boom, blindly, they're all gung-ho. Yeah, okay, I am here for my spiritual evolution. Let's go. And then I lost my train of thought for the third one. I'm sorry.
I was gone from this life, and I was living in what we call the afterlife and progressing through levels of evolution very quickly, because I'd done it all before, very quickly, just so I could get my vibration level up high enough that I could merge back into the source.
You hear that? So it's almost, she's got to get her vibration level high. I mean, this is, new age flags going all over the place. Do, 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 do. Just saying. My vibration's got to get up there. And unless I get my vibration up there, I ain't merging with Sourcey Poo. Not going to happen. And then just think about all the new age stuff, and they talk about, the whole planet's got to raise its vibration so we can ascend to 4D. So Earth can become the new Earth, and then everything will be hunky-dory. It'll be just a beautiful bed of roses. It's the same old song and dance, but in an NDE. Isn't that interesting?
I was gone from this life, and I was living in what we call the afterlife, and progressing through levels of evolution very quickly, because I'd done it all before, very quickly, just so I could get my vibration level up high enough that I could merge back into the source.
Okay, let's just take 10 seconds. Close your eyes. It's time for us to raise our vibrations, ladies and gentlemen, and last timers. Oh my God. Do you see the new Earth around you? Do you feel your vibration levels rising before you? I mean, come on.
Through levels of evolution very quickly, because I'd done it all before, very quickly, just so I could get my vibration level up high enough that I could merge back into the source. Mm-hmm. And then my understanding is I would have dissolved into the source and been a separate personality no longer. Mm-hmm. But when I got this access to the rest of universal knowledge, or the entire range of it, I was feeling very range of it. Arrangement. I was feeling very cheated.
Welcome to the club. I think we all feel that way, regardless of where the belief systems lie.
I was feeling very cheated during my human life, that all of this simple, loving wisdom had been withheld from me, that I had been indoctrinated in religious traditions that had nothing to do with what I was experiencing as true reality of our afterlife. And so
it's all part of the experience, baby. Come to Earth. Get mowed down.
I asked universal knowledge, what's the purpose of religion, in human life? And in response to that, I saw kind of like a documentary, the entire history of the planet Earth.
I've heard some NDEers talk about this before, and it always is kind of different. Like, there doesn't seem to be there's not, you can look at them and you kind of just hear all different things. There's not so if this is being done, it doesn't seem to have any, there's no patterns to really dissect from it. I don't think that, you'll see some things here and there, but it's mostly just, okay, we're just going to kind of tell her this story, or tell this other person this story. And it's just going to be the way it's going to be. But for research purposes, good luck if you want to go down that road.
After seeing that, I was becoming more and more distraught with the level of information that is routinely available to people while they're in human bodies, and how unfair it was that they didn't know the simple truth as I saw it during my near-death experience. To people while they're in human bodies, and how unfair it was that they didn't know the simple truth as I saw it during my near-death experience. So as I was still on the train, progressing back to the source. After seeing the documentary, I then The next level of evolution after what we call heaven is you continue to live but without any kind of beingness to you. It's just an entirely mental existence. So I merged into my 5 light being friends. That's how you get experiences at that level. You don't physically have them yourself. You just borrow.
Oh, you borrow and you merge. So essentially there's there's literally the sovereignty is just being stomped on left, right, up and down beyond belief in this one. I mean, it's not, there's no such thing as, it started that way immediately, but Nanci doesn't desire a sovereign path. She believes that merging with source and merging with other soul group beings, I suppose, is her path, and it's the right way. It's just it's sad. I hope Nanci does more digging before she leaves.
Existence. So I merged into my 5 light being friends. That's how you get experiences.
5 light being
at that level. You don't physically have them yourself. You just borrow by virtual reality somebody else's. And I lived their multitudes of lives and experienced their emotions and their thoughts and everything as them. Then the 6 of us formed a cohesive being of 6, and I experienced oneness out of 6. And then we moved into the source. And I merged into the source, and as I was merging through, it's kind of like your vibrations rising, so it's kind of like through layers.
Your vibrations raising. Okay. Raise your vibration, guys. Okay. That's good. We can continue.
Kind of like your vibrations rising, so it's kind of like through layers.
All right, now I kind of feel bad.
Experienced. Sorry, the source. And I was still thinking, gee, I could have done a better job at this life, and I really wish that people back on Earth knew what I'm now aware of. And I got this intense feeling from the source that even though it was my time to leave this life, and even though I was supposed to dissolve back into the source, that it loved me enough to allow me to make the choice to come back here. And soon I was sent back to my body to make the choice. That it loved me enough to allow me to make the choice to come back. I was supposed to dissolve back into the source.
I was supposed to dissolve back into the source, meaning you're still knee deep in the matrix. She's fighting for what she so desperately wants.
That it loved me enough.
They didn't love me enough
to allow me to make the choice.
To allow me. To allow me to make the choice. Allow. That's just this is, it's all a game of deception and manipulation. And until we put our damn foot down and do what we need to do for ourselves and walk the sovereign path, walk the liberated path, and when our time comes, we put an end to all of this interference, all of this. It's just nonstop. It's got to stop. And the only one that can do that is you and me. And it has to come from within as an individual. If you think merging with the source and going to the light and going to the tunnel and all that stuff is on your radar, I wish you good luck. But if you're considering it as even a remote possibility, I hear people, I don't get it. I hear people all the time in the comment section and sometimes in the chat they'll say, oh, well, I'm going to go to my life review. I want, okay, after my life review, then I'm going to go. In order to get to the life review, you have to go through the tunnel to the light. And then that's when you get the life review. You're in you're on their turf. Screw the life review. If you want to get the life review, you're more than likely cooked. You're done. Because you're buying into the fact that you even need one in the first place. That it's some sort of necessary step for you to leave. Why? Skip the whole damn thing. I'm telling you guys, it's scary how many comments I get like that. It's frightening.
I was supposed to dissolve back into the source. That it loved me enough to allow me to make the choice to come back here.
Allow me.
And zoom, I was sent back to my body, kicking and screaming the whole way. Then when I got back into the body, it was...
Kicking and screaming the whole way. Didn't want to come, I think.
Then when I got back into the body, it was difficult getting in. Eventually I was able to say to the doctor, I passed out. And then they started, taking care of me and watching me like a hawk after that.
Do you have any idea how many minutes had passed?
Damn right, Glenn.
No, all I know is that they left to get films developed. And we had been at it, poking my breast with a needle for more than an hour, like close to an hour and a half. So
Think about that. She's getting poked for an hour in the face. Sorry, Nanci, if you're watching. I feel bad for that. That's torture.
They left to get films developed, and we had been at it, poking my breast with a needle for more than an hour, like close to an hour and a half. So I'm guessing they might have taken a break. So they were gone minutes, but how many, I have no idea.
And you do remember distinctly being given this choice then?
Oh, yes.
And as soon as you made that commitment in your mind, bingo, it happened.
Yes.
Do you regret?
Soon as you made that commitment in your mind, it happened.
And you do remember distinctly being given this choice then?
Oh, yes.
And as soon as you made that commitment in your mind, bingo, it happened.
Yes.
Do you regret having made that choice?
Some days. No, I still believe in the mission.
I still believe in the mission. Nanci, sister, soul sister, please. There is no mission. The mission's part of the scam. It's just hard. It's hard to talk to NDEers. I mean, imagine you have a positive spiritual experience, like a near-death experience, and you come back, and you go through this trials and tribulation period for usually it seems about 2 years. And then you have all this confirmation out there. You go and you go to all the NDE websites, you go to the NDE videos, the podcast, and everything is just auto confirm. Okay, everything is on the up and up. Everything is the way everyone's talking. And I had that at my near-death experience, and so it all makes sense. It's got to be real. It's got to be legitimate. It's really my heart goes out to these people. It is difficult. You just want to sit down with them and talk with them, but it's interesting because I've had near-death experiencers email me. I've spoken with many privately. but not many want to come on and talk about this. They don't, some of them had their NDE 10, 20, 30 years ago even. And they don't want to talk about it, like where I can put it out in the public. They just are seeking information, and they're just kind of now seeing something's up. And I tip my hat to all of you out there who've done that. I mean, and just all of you in general. I mean, it's a rough road out there. Just think about, I guess I can't say we, but I have to say, at least for myself, and I know many of you out there, you plowed through these NDEs like I did at some point, and you took the bait, right? I'm going to take a poll on that. I'll keep going. Let's take a poll on that.
You remember distinctly being given this choice then?
Oh, yes.
And as soon as you made that commitment in your mind, bingo, it happened.
Yes.
Do you regret having made that choice?
Some days. No, I still believe in the mission. I have to confess that I've tried to leave. I mean, not that I tried to commit suicide, but I have been ill. It's been physically demanding being back here. It's been grueling. And there have been opportunities where I could have died, or I could have left the body. The body, I think, would have recuperated. And I was, once again, given a choice. Do you want to come home, or do you want to stay? And curious being that we all are, I said, I want to see what's going to happen, So here I am.
You seemed to hit an emotional wall when you started to explain the initial experience of confronting what you call Source. And I felt your hesitation. I saw your tears. Can you put more words to it in an effort to explain at a deeper level what that was like?
Oh, gosh. There are no human words for it. It was the most profound, touching, humbling, exalting, loving experience. It's equal parts awe and self-confidence, maybe.
Was it a visual experience at all?
No. No,
Is
no
it something you heard?
No.
Was it what we'd call a heartfelt experience?
No.
No.
A feeling of love?
Yes, that. But it was...
How is it not a heartfelt experience if it's not love? Or if it involves love? Let's just continue.
Felt experience?
No.
A feeling of love?
Yes, that. But it was a feeling of merging into God, but I'd always thought of as God.
And yet you volunteered to return away from that.
Ted, it wasn't like I said, well, I want to go back. It was more, your life is directed by focus when you're in the afterlife. Whatever you turn your attention and intention to, you experience. Mm-hmm. And I had turned my attention to people on earth and how unfair I felt it was for the truth to be withheld from them.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel, Nanci. It's a disgrace what's going on here. And it's nothing new. No, actually, Michael, here, let me pop it up. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well, man. Okay, so she says, your life is directed by focus. When you are in the afterlife, whatever you turn your attention and intention to, you experience. Which is kind of the whole thing I've been talking about, or we've been talking about with how that's the whole bowl of wax. It's all about us being able to, we're not buying the bullshit. And what we're going to do is set our focus, attention, and intention towards liberation and leaving this matrix completely to our own realm. So to me, that's a major truth bomb right there. And it's not like we needed much confirmation. I mean, it's just something to add on to the fire, essentially, of all the other examples out there of how we are creator beings, but intention can really mess us up. Belief systems that are, built here can really screw us up when we leave here. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it was the most profound thing said in the entire interview, because it just shows that we hold all the power. It's just a matter of directing that focus, directing that attention, directing that intention to the right spot where we're not even going to be mixed up with these things, We're not going to be tangoing with no deceased relatives, some love and light Jesus character, some love and light whoever, some deceased pets, none of that. It's just simply not going to happen, because our intention is faced in one direction: sovereignty and liberation outside of this matrix completely.
Experience. And I had turned my attention to people on earth and how unfair I felt it was for the truth.
Sorry, let me just I just wanted to say the whole statement.
See, your life is directed by focus when you're in the afterlife. Whatever you turn your attention and intention to, you experience. And I had turned my attention to people on earth and how unfair I felt it was for the truth to be withheld from them. And at some point along the way, I must have formed the intention to come back here, but it wasn't a conscious decision.
Well, you're very...
I must have formed the intention to come here. But it wasn't a conscious decision. I mean, talk about Truth Bomb City. But remember, folks, she was wrapped up in the Matrix. She was not in a sovereign and liberated path. She was knee deep in the Matrix and just going along. So if you're knee deep in the Matrix and lost in the sauce and buying the soul group thing and the merging with source thing and all this other, and Jesus and whoever, doesn't matter what lifetime it is, whatever the case it is, she's in the most vulnerable position imaginable, because she is not taking control of her own destiny. She's infected. That's really the only way to frame it. But, that's, and Nanci, if you do ever run across this video, I mean no offense when I say something like that, because I'm here. Everyone in the chat is here. We've all fallen for this. We're all here. So we've all been there. It's just a matter of realizing the game that's going on and taking the right path now to help ourselves and stand up for ourselves through that sovereign and liberated path when our time comes to leave this place.
My attention to people on earth and how unfair I felt it was for the truth to be withheld from them. And at some point along the way, I must have formed the intention to come back here, but it wasn't a conscious decision.
Well, you're very verbal. You're very bright. You're a lawyer. You're a writer. So this information you mentioned being held from us is something that you can help bridge the gap with. And you can bring people this information that they don't otherwise have access to. And you describe it in your book and other times I've talked to you as information that's been, to use the word downloaded, given you. Did that downloading occur in that period you were in this state, or since you returned from that state?
All while I was in the light. It all came to me then.
And I have the feeling that if you were to spread it out on a piece of, on a table, single space pages of information, it would go on forever. That there was more information that was downloaded to you than would make sense, it seems, to humans in the time allotted for you during that time when you were in that other state.
Yes. My understanding and what I've read from other near-death experiencers is that you get all the knowledge in your mind all at once. You know, all you have to do...
You get all the knowledge all at once.
Yes. My understanding and what I've read from other near-death experiencers is that you get all the knowledge in your mind all at once. You know, all you have to do to be consciously aware of it is turn your focus toward it. So it's the true sensation of omniscience.
So you've been talking about this and writing about this for all these years now.
Well, actually, I guess I started writing the first book in 1995.
All these years.
But then I just wrote down the physical things that happened to me because I wanted a doctor to tell me, you know, what had happened to me. They were telling me I was hallucinating, and I wrote, you know, a whole bunch of pages of it, just the chronology, because I wanted confirmation that I wasn't hallucinating. But then I didn't start getting the downloads of the rest of the memories.
Getting the downloads of the rest of the memories.
The chronology, because I wanted confirmation that I wasn't hallucinating. But then I didn't start getting...
Did you want confirmation of possibly things may not be on the up and up on what you experienced, Nancy? Because, again, if you ever run across this video, check out my Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap playlist. It's chock full with examples, and it shows complacency and blind trust to external forces over and over and over again. And I'm sure, Nancy, you've looked at so many different NDEs at this point, given your path and everything you experienced, that I'm sure you can possibly, you know, maybe with a new lens, see that this is going on, that nobody questions what's going on. It just is very few, very, very few. And when they question it, usually it's just, you know, they question a little something, then, you know, boom, boom, boom. They're, you know, shot down and everything change, you know, things change. You know, it's very, the amount of pushback in NDEs is slim to none. And that's a major, major red flag that everybody needs to be aware of, because it's overwhelmingly present. I mean, I'd love to see a study on that one.
And I wrote, you know, a whole bunch of pages of it, just the chronology, because I wanted confirmation that I wasn't hallucinating. But then I didn't start getting the downloads of the rest of the memories until 2001. I was ill for a year and couldn't work. And I got to a point where I literally couldn't think. I mean, the voice in my head just stopped. And I kind of wondered for a while if I was crazy. But then what started coming was the memories. I began reliving my near-death experience, my afterlife experience, and remembering.
That's what I'm getting at. How are you so certain that it wasn't a case of having this near-death experience where there was information downloaded to you, but then since that door was open, there were more downloads since you've come back year after year since then? It sounds like you're saying this is all information that came in that compacted time that was downloaded to you, and you're now just still sifting through it all.
I just want to say that before she answers, and I'll rewind the question, this does happen where near-death experiencers, like, start to go through the everyday walks of life, and they start getting reminders and little bits and pieces here and there on things they may have forgotten from their experience, or maybe I personally, I think it's timed release, kind of like a time release capsule, time release anything, so it's put out there, and kind of like, okay, the Matrix says, okay, let's transmit this little bit of information to Nanci, or she may come to it through meditation or a dream, and then she say, oh yeah, that's right, there's that. But why didn't Nanci get that luxury all at once when she came back? Why is it drips and drabs of recall over the course of time? But her case, what she's experiencing is something we see. So it's not extremely common, but it's not uncommon either.
Years since then, it sounds like you're saying this is all information that came in that compacted time that was downloaded to you, and you're now just still sifting through it all, making sense and writing it down.
Well, like we were just talking in class, I don't sift through it. When I've got a chapter coming for one of my books, I wake up usually like about 4:30, and all I know is there's a chapter and it's about X. And I wake up and I get up and I go to my laptop and I just start typing. But I have no idea what I'm going to type. Now, I will remember that I will have been back in my near-death experience before I woke up. Like I can specifically remember reliving the life review portion of it, and I have visual memories of that. And I woke up while I was there, and I went, oh, I gotta get this on paper. But I don't process it at all. It's not a mental function. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not organizing it. I'm not thinking about what it means. I just sit down and type it out. And when I'm finished typing, I read and go, oh. And I recognize it. I recognize that I knew it at one time.
I recognize that I knew it at one time. This is memory wipe, but with time released recall. For, I would like to put forward, what purpose? Nanci's a well-known author. Nanci's a well-known near-death experiencer. She's one of those out there who is likely being used by the Matrix to continue the agenda.
About what it means. I just sit down and type it out. And when I'm finished typing, I read and go, oh. And I recognize it. I recognize that I knew it at one time, but there's no way I could have come up with it.
A couple of questions before we get into some questions that I've extracted from much of what you've written about in your book. Backwards, returning to our source for answers, and that is for anybody who might be seeing this for the first time, to flesh out some of your background. You were a lawyer, a partner in a firm.
Okay. I'm a little over the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to hold his question and take a quick 5-minute break, and we will meet back here shortly. Thank you for joining me tonight, and enjoy a little music, and I will see you shortly, my friends. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
another minute, my friends. Well, not a minute, but a few seconds. Okay. All right. So, digging it. All right. So let's get back into the question. I hope I have it queued up right. Let's see. Oh, but you know what? Before we continue, I'll close out the poll. So we had 37 votes, and I kind of screwed this one up. I wish I added a different option. All right. So the question was: do you think NDEs were mostly legit before realizing the possibility of the soul trap? 65% of you said yes. 14% of you said no, and 22% of you said went straight to the soul trap. 22%. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's like higher than I would have expected, but I wish I put something like still on the fence about the soul trap, or still on the fence about NDEs, something like that. So yeah, missed that one. So we'll close that one out. And just quickly wanted to remind those of you out there who are Last Timers Club members, we will be having our monthly live stream together on Sunday, January 30th. That's this Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you could check the members community tab for a link. And I believe I have it in the description as well. So yeah, thank you, Dusty. If you don't mind giving the stream a thumbs up, that would be awesome. Help get this into more people's feeds, or at least that's what I'm told happens. I don't even know if it does, but okay. So without further ado, let's keep the NDE train rolling.
Get into some questions that I've extracted from much of what you've written. Before we get into some questions that I've extracted from much of what you've written about in your book, backwards, returning to our source for answers, and that is for anybody who might be seeing this for the first time, to flesh out some of your background. You were a lawyer, a partner in a firm, and since this experience, your life has changed in that area and in other areas?
Just about every area.
You no longer work for the same firm?
No, I was a partner in a 270-person law firm.
Damn.
And one of the life-changing things that happened for me during my afterlife experience was when I was learning the difference between human nature and or true spiritual nature. I saw what an animal I had been, and I mean that in the literal sense. I had dedicated my life to competitiveness, getting ahead, being a success, being the best lawyer that I could be, making a reputation for myself. I was after money because I was very insecure. My father had died when I was 18, and from that day forward, I knew I had to take care of myself. Nobody else would.
Well, yeah, but there's nothing, that's part of the Matrix programming, Nancy. It's okay. It's dog-eat-dog world out there. And everybody has to survive. They have to. And, when you're lost in the Matrix, I was lost. I know many of you, if not everybody, was lost at some point. Nobody, I think, I have had a few people say I was born awake and stuff like that. Maybe it's the case. I don't know. But I was born questioning things, and I always knew something was wrong here from as far back as I can remember. I just didn't know what the hell it was. And then I got polluted and all this other stuff through the systems. But Nancy, it's a typical path, I think, to go through that. It's okay. It's okay. But, I think once we realize that, the materialistic nature and agenda of this existence is flawed and an illusion, basically an illusion to keep us trapped within it, Or if you have a highly charged spiritual experience like an NDE, then life can change at the, drop of a hat. So it's okay, Nancy. We all empathize.
Because I was very insecure. My father had died when I was 18, and from that day forward, I knew I had to take care of myself. Nobody else would. And that's the person that I was before I had this experience. After I came back, my whole world had been blown to pieces. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about life, about the afterlife, about religion, it was all gone. And I was kind of stumbling through life. And so not too long after my near-death experience, I had another experience, a meeting with counsel. There's, at least I have a counsel. I assume we all have a counsel, but it was a counsel light beings who kind of called me before them, and I don't remember the experience. I just remember they kind of gave me a kick and said, you came back to life for a purpose, get on with it,
There was a lot right there just in that statement. So let's rewind it and unpack it.
Experience, a meeting with counsel long after my near-death experience through life. And so not too long after my near-death experience, I had another
very common, not too long after an NDE
experience, a meeting with counsel. There's
counsel. Well, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the materialistic thing. No, the counsel thing is definitely different. Although some people have talked about it where, or if it's not the counsel, then it could be your spirit guide or ascended master or whatever the case may be. Or even a deceased loved one who can maybe roll into town and or there could be like a subliminal type message that you run across and there will be no communication at all, but you'll just kind of run into some subliminal that just all of a sudden is like, hey, knock, knock, all of a sudden things start rolling out and memories can flood in, or your mission can start to unravel a little bit. But my feeling on missions.
And I was kind of stumbling through life. And so not too long after my near-death experience, I had another experience, a meeting with counsel. There's, at least I have a counsel. I assume we all have a counsel, but it was a counsel light beings who kind of called me before them. And I don't remember the experience. I just remember they kind of gave me a kick and said, you came back to life for a purpose, get on with it,
You came to life for a purpose. I don't remember anything, but came here for a purpose.
And I don't remember the experience. I just remember they kind of...
I don't remember the experience. Okay, the council, Niall, is the it's called the Council of Elders usually. Okay. And if you look into pre-birth memories and past life regressions, you see them a lot. You do see them in NDEs, but not nearly as much as you see them in pre-birth memories and past life regressions. Niall, if you want to really break it down and see the whole thing in action with some of these council of elders, which is, they're basically kind of like the last stop before you come down here, from everything I can tell. Check out my commentary, like I had mentioned earlier, on Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, in that specific order. You can find the playlist for each of them in the channel's homepage or in the Matrix Reincarnation playlist. But the council is, they're just, where else you can see them is in the movie, oh my God. Let me continue. It'll come to me.
Kind of called me before them, and I don't remember the experience. I just remember they kind of gave me a kick and said, you came back to life for a purpose, get on with it, you know.
Yeah, defending your life.
At that point, I realized I had to leave the firm.
Yeah, Joe just put it up there. Defending Your Life. Check out that movie. That's a must-see movie. Anyone who hasn't seen that, gotta see it. I mean, and that, you know, what's interesting about that movie, I think it was made in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s, whatever the hell it was. Anyways, before anything about Matrix and computer code was really, you know, jumped on, there's a moment towards the beginning of the film where he's going in to meet his defender, and defender's sitting behind a desk in his office, and Brooks is sitting across from him, and it's about his whole life. And then he looks at the paper about that's supposed to basically be what went down in his life, and it's all zeros and ones. So it shows, it has a Matrix reveal in that moment. I mean, it's just, there's so much there, it's not even funny. I mean, that is a movie worth seeing multiple times because there's so much there. And then another one is Soul. Check out Soul, the Disney Pixar animation. A must see. Soul is unbelievable how much is there. Check it out.
You see life differently now than you did before?
I have a very unique experience of life because I'm constantly aware of who and what I am, and my body is too. My body knows there are two of us in here.
The two being?
My body knows there are two others in me. You know what that is? That's the soul and the spirit. Two others. So I guess she's including the human meat suit, the soul, and the spirit. Soul is the parasite. The spirit is your true essence. That's who you really are. And the soul and the spirit, we've talked about this before, where the soul and the spirit are kind of, and then you have this thing, this stupid brain and this meat suit that governs your experience while you're here. We are toned down a zillion % and experience life via perception. And what happens as we grow up, especially at a young age, we're just sponges for information. We take it in. And then that kind of can mostly dictate, this has been proven scientifically, that between the ages of birth to 7 are your most vulnerable and formidable years. And the system knows that. The system knows it better than we will ever know. And that's why everything is set up the way it is. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't have control. I mean, it's crazy out there. It's crazy. I don't need to tell you that.
I'm constantly aware of who and what I am, and my body is too. My body knows there are two of us in here.
The two.
The body knows too.
Being?
The human animal and me.
Oh.
And who's the me?
What we would call soul.
Okay. So she's missing the spirit connection. So she is saying 2 is, I haven't gone through this one in a while, so I'm sorry for missing the mark on that one I was talking about earlier with 3. Because I thought she was saying 2 in addition, because she said 2 on top of me or whatever, or 2 plus me or something. So I thought it was the human body, soul, spirit, but no, it's she's saying it is the human body and the soul, when in fact, you know, it actually is 3, because you have this vessel, you have the soul, and you have the spirit. Soul parasite, spirit real you, body a governor.
My body knows there are two of us in here.
The two being?
The human animal and me.
And who's the me?
What we would call soul. The being of light. The person that I truly am, my eternal being.
So you're suggesting that we all live these two dimensions simultaneously?
That's my understanding.
And both
yes.
are important? Both are required?
Not required, no. It's a choice to enter into a human and to share that human's life. You know, when you're an omniscient being who can manifest physical reality with just a thought, it's kind of a nice experience to come to the physical world and learn by rote and to not know all the answers and to experience physical sensations. I mean, during my afterlife experience, I was made keenly aware of the physical sensations that I had taken for granted. I mean, just simple things like the touch of skin. When you're a spiritual being, you have no ability to touch. And I miss food. I miss chocolate. I've said that a million times, but I was surprised that I miss chocolate. I mean, I'm in the afterlife. I'm in heaven, you know. I miss chocolate. So that wasn't enough reason to bring me back here, though. A spiritual being, you have nothing for granted. I mean, just simple things like the touch of skin. When you're a spiritual being, you have no ability to touch. And I miss food. I miss chocolate. I've said that a million times, but I was surprised that I miss chocolate. I mean, I'm in the afterlife. I'm in heaven, you know.
Sounds like soul. Remember 22 with pizza? Which, you know, let's not even go there. Okay, but kind of interesting that they put that whole narrative in that movie and in so many others.
Spiritual being, you have no ability to touch. And I miss food. I miss chocolate. I've said that a million times, but I was surprised that I miss chocolate. I mean, I'm in the afterlife. I'm in heaven, you know. I miss chocolate. So that wasn't enough reason to bring me back here, though. But yes, both beings are important. We are the guardian of the human animals we inhabit, and they are our closest, dearest friend.
You sound like you're speaking from...
Closest, dearest friend. Closest, dearest friend.
Important. We are the guardian of the human animals we inhabit, and they are our closest, dearest friend.
You sound like you're speaking from a sense of proprietorship for the soul self, referring to the animal self as something separate from who you are in your conscious mind.
Yes, that is soul and spirit. Soul and spirit. And the meat suit is the delivery system and the perception machine that is around you. And if your perception machine meat suit is chocked up with a bunch of bullshit at a young age, or if you continue to not question things throughout the entirety of your life, and guess what? The soul's winning. Because the soul is part of the matrix. The spirit is the real you. And unfortunately, Nanci is just a little confused here. It's not her fault. It's just, you know, a little bit of... It's because you know what I really blame it on is just the fact that soul and spirit are constantly mixed together. Seriously, think about all the stuff you look at online. It's always talking about soul. It's not talking about spirit. It's always soul, 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 everywhere. And then you'll hear, spirit here and there, and then you realize that most people are just mixing up soul with spirit. They don't realize that the soul is part of it. It's a hanger-on, a parasite that is designed to kind of forge that life script. But the spirit has to step in and make the decision. But if the spirit is corrupted by its surrounding, its perception, while it's here, then the soul is going to kind of egg it on, and decisions will be made that are not in the best interest of the spirit, leading to the soul winning over the spirit. And that's how this never-ending circle of bullshit continues. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Closest, dearest friend.
You sound like you're speaking from a sense of proprietorship for the soul self, referring to the animal self as something separate from who you are in your conscious mind.
The understanding, the very first wave of knowings that I got when I was in the light, before anything else happened, was about the fact that humans are, they're manifestations, but they are beings in and of themselves without a soul. In other words, humans are animals who are self-aware, they have intelligence, they have emotions, they have life, they have drives, instincts, and memories, and everything needed to be alive and to function normally in this environment on Earth. They do not need souls inside. We are not the life force of the human animals. We, on the other hand, I call beings of light, because that's when near-death experiencers, describe their experience. They see these glowing beings. Well, call them beings of light. That's us. That's who we really are, and we can invest our energy, some of our energy, into a human animal as its soul. We are complete beings in and of ourselves. We have our own personalities, innate characteristics, memories, thoughts, emotions. They're similar to those that we experience in human life, but far outstrip anything that a human life has to offer.
What prepare?
I mean, I'm going to rewind this, but I'll try and keep it short.
And everything needed to self-aware, they have intelligence, they have about
The animal self as
the understanding, the very first wave of knowings that I got when I was in the light, before anything else happened.
Wave of knowing that I got. She got it. Received. I mean, I know I'm repeating this, but I'm repeating it for a reason, because she is saying it herself. So it's important to acknowledge when she is, putting forth that information is coming to her. It's being given to her. Deposit, as she said earlier.
separate from who you are.
When I was in the light, before anything else happened, was about the fact that humans are, they're manifestations, but they are beings in and of themselves without a soul. In other words, humans are animals who are self-aware, they have intelligence, they have emotions, they have life, they have drives, instincts, and memories, and everything needed to be alive and to function normally in this environment on Earth. They do not need souls inside. We are not the life force of the human animals. We, on the other hand, I call on Earth. They do not need souls inside. We are not the life force.
They do not. Isn't that kind of interesting? Think about that. She says they do not need souls inside. I think that's a slip up. I do. Interesting, isn't it?
And everything needed to be alive and to function normally in this environment on Earth. They do not need souls inside. We are not the life force of the human animals. We, on the other hand, I call beings of light, because that's when near-death experiencers, describe their experience. They see these glowing beings. Well, call them beings of light. That's us. That's who we really are, and we can invest our energy, some of our energy, into a human animal as its soul. We are complete beings in and of ourselves. We have our own personalities, innate characteristics, memories, thoughts, emotions.
And all of that, as we just talked about, can be molded by a system that one grows up in, a intergenerational system of indoctrination can be cast down upon you unknowingly, and in turn, mold you to a certain way of life, to a certain directive, and boom, before you know it, you're lining up to go get that thing that's been talked about for the last couple of years. See what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, and you're buying, left versus right paradigm. You're buying in that you need a leader. That's another thing. What is up with this ridiculousness of the human desire and basic necessity to have something lead them? Where does that come from? Why is everyone around us have this desire to have someone breathing down its neck and lead them and protect them? Oh, I need protecting. Stop being a wuss and get out and live your life. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You're an eternal being. You're all good. Whatever the hell happens, happens. There's nothing to worry about. As long as you live your day-to-day life, go about doing what you're doing, and stop worrying about discovering some bullshit truth in this area, some bullshit truth in that area that is linked to the Matrix. Because I'm telling you, most of the information out there, as far as truth goes, is linked to the Matrix. It's a box. The Matrix has all these pretty little boxes set up throughout all of the realm. And they're hoping, they're wide open, and they're hoping that, hey, Michael, why don't you, here, pop into this box. DB, pop into this box. Vince, pop into this box. And it's hoping to just smash your head in when you pop in it. That's what it's hoping for. And then you add intergenerational trauma within the family. You add indoctrination from birth to age 7, where you're completely just a sponge for your exterior surroundings, perception being molded everywhere. And then after that age, and all of a sudden, you wake up out of this fucking haze and you're going to school. You already were going to school, but you're going to school and you kind of just are like a robot. You're a perfect robot drone of complacency. Now, you might be questioning things, but you know what? You're not allowed to question things as much because you're a child. You don't know any better. You're not allowed to question things because you know what? You got to deal with that intergenerational trauma parenting system, grandparents, friends, all this stuff being cast down upon you to try and lead you to the boxes. It is a diabolical system beyond any of our possible comprehension. But you know what? It's fucking diabolical. That's what we know.
Into a human animal as its soul. We are complete beings in and of ourselves. We have our own personalities, innate characteristics, memories, thoughts, emotions. They're similar to those that we experience in human life, but far outstrip anything that a human life has to offer.
What prepared you for this role? Were you much of a spiritual or religious person prior to this event?
Yes. I tried very hard to be a very good person. I read a lot of spiritual books. I mean, I was the little geeky kid that read Siddhartha, in grade school, whenever people were out playing wiffle ball. I was very...
That's Buddha.
I would have to say I was ill-equipped for this human life. From the time I was born, I felt different. I didn't understand human behavior. I still don't a lot of times. I have always felt like I didn't fit in. So I read spiritual books about that I felt described our true nature. as a way of comforting myself, of reassuring myself that I wasn't alone.
So this may have prepared you for the experience you were eventually destined to go through.
Yeah, the setup job.
At least a little bit.
Yes.
Why were you chosen to perform this function?
Because I was off track. I mean, I was so far off track.
We're all off track.
How do you know?
Well,
I really like how the interviewer says that. We're all off track. We're all off track. I mean, just think about everything I just mentioned before the last pause. Because we're all off track because of this whole intergenerational insane asylum system. And remember, it's always been here. We are just in our modern day version of it. Before all this technological crap happened, with super hyper propaganda, there was still propaganda. The churches were forcing people to comply. There were town squares with news, town news in the square, and people would hover around it. It's always been here. It's always been here. And I ask anyone out there to go and prove that there is evidence of some sort of utopia era of Earth. It does not exist. I wish it did. I wish there was something we can look back. But then again, given how diabolical the whole thing is, and if you think about the whole, even in the new Matrix movie, they talk about, I think it was the new Matrix movie, they talk about how there was, I think, 6 simulations before this one. And let's just say that's the case. I don't know if it is. I'm just saying, I'm not, making any definitive statements. I'm just saying it's something to think about. That there was like a utopia Earth. And if I remember correctly, they say that, it was just so good that it was so obvious to figure out. So they kept fiddling around with it, trying different ones. And apparently we're in our 6th version of it. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing it out there. It makes sense that there would be multiple versions of, let's call it, the build of this Matrix. And we are just in our modern day version of it. That's all. It's not, but it's always been here. And we all know that ancient societies existed, ancient architectures all over the realm. It's flooded in the realm that defies even modern day building techniques. And yet, hey, no big deal. Everything's cool. It's always been this way. That's my main point right here, is that it's always been this way. Like the Good Place. Exactly, Miss Ellie. Like the Good Place. Exactly, sister. Hope you're doing well tonight.
Yes.
Why were you chosen to perform this function?
Because I was off track. I mean, I was so far off track.
We're all off track.
How do you know?
Well, I'm just guessing there's a lot of wayward people among us.
Well, I can't speak for the other wayward people. All I know is that based on the information I was given during my experience, I volunteered to come here this life to be a messenger. I knew I'd been a catalyst. I mean, all my life I've always felt like I was a catalyst in people's lives, saying or doing. Volunteered to come here this life to I can't speak for the other wayward people. All I know is that based on the information I was given during my experience.
Oh, man. I'm sorry about that. All right.
I was off track. I mean, I was so far off track.
We're all off track.
We're all off track. Absolutely. Because of the system that we are plopped into.
How do you know?
Well,
How do you know? Because you're human.
I'm just guessing there's a lot of wayward people among us.
Well, I can't speak for the other wayward people. All I know is that based on the information I was given during my experience, I volunteered to come here this life to be a messenger. I knew I'd been a catalyst. I mean, all my life I've always felt like I was a catalyst in people's lives.
Okay, so she always thought she was a catalyst in people's lives. You know, that's kind of like the savior programming, she's being fed the ego narratives. Like, how many NDEs do we see where you have deceased family members or in some cases stadiums filled with beings who may be in your soul group family, which I will say I'm not buying a whole stadium filled with with entities. I think it's just a flat out illusion. But the spirit walks into the stadium and everyone's cheering for him. Yeah, you did good. Blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden they start rolling the life review. Why? To boost the ego, to make you have this purpose, to make you feel like you had a purpose, to boost your ego, to make you feel good. And they're also using energy techniques to kind of get you to go along with the show, to buy into the illusion that, this is the way things are. This feels like home. No, that's just not the case.
Experience. I volunteered to come here this life to be a messenger. I knew I'd been a catalyst. I mean, all my life I've always felt like I was a catalyst in people's lives, saying or doing something that changed their life. A lot of times it was really not a good thing that I did, but anyway, it was what they needed at the time. But and I'm not the only one. There are maybe millions of us. There are lots of us here who came at this particular point in Earth's history to ease all of us into the next phase of human existence. History. And I'm not the only one. There are maybe millions of us.
I'm not the only one. There's millions of us. Just so you know that, Nanci was given a role. She stepped up to the plate. Source said, okay, we need some volunteers. Nanci said she raised her hand to go in and fight for humanity. And again, Nanci, I'm just telling it like it is, if you happen to hear this.
Lots of us here who came at this particular point in Earth's history to ease all of us into the next phase of human
ease. Doesn't seem so easeful, does it? Kind of seems like it's just like a runaway train, and the track is just about to end, and it's just gonna keep going. And it's so obvious that things are not improving. There's no vibrations being raised up in here. It's a nut house. If anything, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Earth is not ascending to 4D, 5D, all the way to 8D, whatever crap you want to call it. We're just being taken for a ride And all these little mini matrix systems are out there trying to suck you into their boxes and keep you there.
History to ease all of us into the next phase of human existence, the next phase of Earth.
Know anybody else alive today who's experienced what you have to the degree you have?
I don't know anyone, but I read an account by Mellon Thomas Benedict that sounded to me like he had been through, he'd been to the source. I have no doubt whatsoever that he merged into the source. That's the only NDE account that I've ever read where I felt that the person had the same experience I did.
Silly question, but I'm sure there were professionals out there in the mental health field and physical health field who questioned whether or not this was a figment of your imagination, a dream, a hallucination, or something even more profound than that.
Yeah, my doctors did.
And how have you reconciled those questions?
I don't care what they think. One of the commonalities among the near-death experience accounts that I have read of those who have gotten far enough into the experience is that the sense of reality there far, far outweighs the sense of reality we have here. Mm-hmm. I mean, looking back at human life from that vantage point, I could not believe that I ever thought this was real. Mm-hmm. And so the same sense of unreality that we get about dreams while we're here in human form, I had while I was there about human life. So there was no doubt in my mind that it was real and that that's true reality. This is a virtual reality game, a role, a play.
A dream, an illusion?
A dream, an illusion, a character that I'm playing.
What is the purpose of the rest of your life in this act, then?
Well, my contract with the council is that I'm supposed to be giving people the information that I got while I was there to the best of my ability.
The council given to the best of my ability.
What is the purpose of the rest of your life in this act, then?
Well, my contract with the council is that I'm supposed...
My contract with the council.
A character that I'm playing.
What is the purpose of the rest of your life in this act, then?
Well, my contract with the council is that I'm supposed to be giving people the information that I got while I was there to the best of my ability.
And are you?
I'm trying. I do have 2 books so far. The second one will come out October 1st. I'm trying to do some speaking. It's difficult for me physically. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm trying.
I've loved sifting through your book, your first book, backwards, and I've prepared some 20 questions from it, if it's okay, and we'll just proceed if that's all right. You say you were 2 separate beings, flesh and light and energy. Is it possible to pierce the veil that separates our light being from our flesh being? Can we be?
You know, I'm going to ask some of you out there to stop. I mean, seriously. I just told you the fucking video got flagged. Why do you continue?
You say you were 2 separate beings, flesh.
You want to go talk about all that other crap? Go to another channel. Everybody knows.
If it's okay, and we'll just proceed if that's all right. You say you were 2 separate beings, flesh and light and energy. Is it possible to pierce the veil that separates our light being from our flesh being? Can we be aware of both simultaneously?
I don't know if everybody can, but I am. And I think that's partly because my body caught me trying to leave on several occasions and was aware that I could leave and it would be alone here on this physical earth without me.
So once you became aware of that
my human
duality,
became aware of that.
Yeah, you've simply retained that awareness.
Yes.
You don't question it, it's real.
It's real.
In talking about Source, or God, you say Source by nature has unlimited curiosity. That really intrigues me.
Unlimited curiosity, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, the fake source. The Matrix wannabe source.
It's real.
In talking about source or God, you say source by nature has unlimited curiosity. That really intrigues me. How could this be possible since source is omniscient? What would be the point of curiosity?
The curiosity is part of the creative nature, I think. I think the reason why some people engage in their art is they're curious about what's going to come, how it's going to turn out, where's their creativity going to flow. So that's part of the creativity of source. The other part of it is, or the curiosity of source, the other part of it is source knows everything in an intellectual fashion. What it seeks is experiential knowledge. Knowing what something is and how it feels are two different things.
Mm-hmm. So that is the germ of its sense of curiosity then?
Yes. And we satisfy that curiosity by getting those sensations for source.
We satisfy that curiosity by getting them for source. Yeah, that sounds real. So you want to isn't source all knowing? Isn't source supposed to be this all knowing being? It's worried about some earthly game going on here. Dare I call it a game? Come on. It's so obvious. That's it's so fucking obvious.
What it seeks is experiential knowledge.
Experiential knowledge. Oh, now we're starting to see it.
Knows everything in an intellectual fashion. What it seeks is experiential knowledge. Knowing what something is and how it feels are two different things.
Mm-hmm. So that is the germ of its sense of curiosity then?
Yes. And we satisfy that curiosity by getting those sensations for source.
I was raised Catholic to believe my faith was the one true religion, and you say there is no one true religion. What should we take from this as people struggle to understand where they are vis-a-vis with their own faith or spiritual tradition that they're raised in? Should they abandon them? Should they just look more broadly for all the good that comes from other faiths, or is there something else they should do?
Well, I was raised Catholic too, and I was a good little Catholic girl. I had the little altar in my room and everything, you know. I guess when I say there's no one true religion, I'm thinking in terms of dogma. That the religions out there, there's not one that, as far as I know, hits all the high points of the truth as I understand it.
That's the statement of the year right there. Couldn't agree more with that.
Religions out there, there's not one that, as far as I know, hits all the high points of the truth as I understand it. Should a person abandon their religion? No. Should they look at it critically? Yes. Look at the elements of what you have been taught, what you believe, and see, is it unconditional love that you're being shown, or is it fear? If you're in a religion that tries to control you through fear, my perception is that's a human-based religion. It's not a source-based one. I know that everybody has had some...
Yeah, it's not a source-based one. Yeah, sure.
A religion that tries to control you through fear, my perception is that's a human-based religion.
No, that's a matrix parasite. That's all it is. It's all part of the scripts that we walk into when we get down here. Humans continue to push it, but that's because the indoctrination continues to go and go and go and go. So, all right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. See you in a minute.
unconditional love that you're being shown, or is it fear? If you're in a religion that tries to control you through fear, my perception is that's a human-based religion. It's not a source-based one. I know that.
So what is a source-based religion? Anybody in the chat want to just ring, let me know? T, good to see you. Yeah, I think the mic problem was resolved. I forgot to unmute it. Thank you.
Everybody has had some kind of spiritual awakening, some kind of information from universal knowledge, some contact with somebody who's crossed over. I mean, it's everywhere. It's a common experience. What isn't common is the fessing up to it. And our religious leaders are in a human structure where they are appointed to uphold and represent a particular frame of reference, a particular religion. They can't go off, like saying anything and everything that they may feel or experience if it's not congruent with their public persona.
Then they shouldn't be there. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems that this matrix has is that nobody in positions of actual power ever speak truth. You might get controlled truth, but you're never going to get truth that's revealed through something like a system in religion. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Or anything else, mind you. It's just the way it's set up. And that's the sad fact of how this reality is run.
Your religion, they can't go off, like saying anything and everything that they may feel or experience if it's not congruent with their public persona. Ask them in private what they think and feel. It may be different, I don't know. But
no, they usually just continue the bullshit.
There are no few instances out there. There are millions and millions of them. It's just people aren't speaking out. I mean, I would never have done this in a million years if I hadn't had the near-death experience that forced me into it.
Final question. When people die, why don't more of them communicate to us from the other side?
Oh, they do all the time.
To you?
Oh, my mom and dad, I always tell them they're better parents now than they ever were while they were in the body.
Do they communicate to you?
Oh, yes. All
they
the
advise
time.
You?
They advise me.
You should know that answer right away, right, Nancy? I mean, do they advise you, yes or no? I mean, I think if I had, my deceased father come to me and giving me all these messages, that I would know the answer to that question immediately.
Better parents now than they ever were while they were in the body.
Do they communicate to you?
Oh, yes. All
they
the
advise
time.
You?
They advise me.
Counsel you?
No.
Share their love with you?
Yes.
Oh. Do they share their love bomb with you, Nancy? See what I mean? I mean, it's all set up. So, as soon as he asked about love, then, automatic answer. That's because the parents are the conduit of the matrix. And what do they normally disperse? Love. And, it's your parents too. There's an obvious love attachment right then and there.
All
they
the
advise
time.
you?
Well, for most of us.
They advise me.
Counsel you?
No.
Share their love with you?
Yes.
Knew right away.
And when I'm in too much pain, I can ask them to take it away, and they will. And when I'm doing my self-healing and I'm just done with a physical, I've just had it up to here with a physical problem, I will say, okay, I'm ready for this to be gone now. And I think they infuse energy into me, help me, like, boost my energy up enough that I can get over it.
Nanci Danison, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's okay. Okay.
All right. So that is one of her testimonies, and I'm gonna head on over and get, where's her, talks about reincarnation. So let's see. All right, here it is. This is a short clip. It's only about 4.5 minutes without commentary.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nanci Danison, and today I stand before you in a human body. But
Hold on, the volume's pretty low. Let me just try and take care of that for you guys.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nanci Danison, and today I stand before you in a human body. But I remember having lots of other types of bodies and non-bodies and other shapes and forms throughout the universe. When I had my near-death experience in 1994, I learned for a fact that reincarnation is real.
Well, that's scary.
When I had my near-death experience in 1994, I learned for a fact that reincarnation is real. I grew up in a religion that didn't believe in it. I never really heard anything about it until I was an adult and started getting an interest in New Age type topics.
Oh, so I got interested in New Age type topics. So there is a belief system within Nanci.
Heard anything about it until I was an adult and started getting an interest in New Age type topics. But when I was in the afterlife, right after I had my life review, kind of going on at the same time as the life review, I started getting back memories of hundreds or maybe even thousands of other lifetimes that I had lived all over the universe. And I could remember every single second of every single one, every thought, every sensation.
Of every single one? I seriously think that any of us who would have such access to that many past lives, that they're not necessarily all going to be there. And I'm not saying that that's definitely the case with Nanci, but it's a big claim. It's a big claim. But, I mean, we're talking about someone who's crossed over into an NDE and is experiencing something that most of us cannot put into words, or even, respectfully, not even have the audacity to talk about. But here we are.
The universe. And I could remember every single second of every single one, every thought, every sensation, every type of sensory input, every event, every person, all of it, all at the same time. We have that ability when we're outside these bodies. And I saw lifetime after lifetime, some of which were human, but most, by far, were not. So from that, I believe that there are many, many inhabited planets and stars and nebula and all kinds of things. Some of the entities that I inhabited were not visible or would not be visible to human eyes. Some of them were gaseous. I inhabited inanimate objects like rocks, plants, creatures.
I got some gaseous right now.
Stars and nebula and all kinds of things. Some of the entities that I inhabited were not visible or would not be visible to human eyes. Some of them were gaseous. I inhabited inanimate objects like rocks, plants, creatures. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And it was my understanding when I was getting all that information that we all go through the same thing. I also learned in the afterlife that reincarnation is just one phase of eternal life.
One phase of eternal life within the matrix of control.
I also learned in the afterlife that reincarnation is just one phase of eternal life. Most of us have grown up in religions where we were made aware of heaven and earth, and that was it. I found out in the afterlife that what we call heaven is just the place you hang out during the incarnation phase of life. It's a way station, a rest station.
And that's what we've talked about on this channel, that what is perceived as I call it the false heaven and the false hell. It's equivalent to a way station. It's like a stop-off point where you're kind of still experiencing somewhat of a physical type reality. Okay? Because everything kind of has that representation. But at the same time, you're in your astral form. You're in your true form. So you think about it. If you're crossing over from the human form to your true type essence form, which, if you're at the way station, you're under the influence. I mean, that's kind of the funny part. It's like, oh, let's pull them over, and you're under the influence. But they have it set up where it's familiar. You're able to see deceased loved ones and make those connections. You're able to see Jesus or God or whoever the belief system is linked to back on Earth. So it's clearly a way station. I mean, it's overwhelmingly evident that that's what's going on. But our interpretations of these things are much different. So that's where Nanci and I kind of divide in this particular segment so far. But there's a little bit more to come.
Heaven and earth, and that was it. I found out in the afterlife that what we call heaven is just the place you hang out during the incarnation phase of life. It's a way station, a rest station, a hospice for some of us who've had really tough lives.
It's a hospice for some of us who have had tough lives. And you'll hear NDEers, again, they those who come back, they'll talk about how they felt revived, or if you look at the coma NDEs, those are some fascinating accounts. And they talk about just that they were revived. They may have had a rough go at life, and, maybe were riding on a motorcycle and had, most of the bones in their body destroyed, but yet somehow the Matrix wants to torture them and keep them alive. And they go through this process of being healed. But that's just a simple Matrix way station, like she says. So I mean, I'm in agreement with her on that, but the mechanics and why it exists is where we clearly divide the clearly divide the line in the sand.
During the incarnation phase of life, it's a way station, a rest station, a hospice for some of us who've had really tough lives. It's a place for contemplation, reflection, re-energizing, being filled once again with unconditional love.
Re-energizing.
After the incarnation phase, we stop going there. So when I was in the afterlife, I had my 5 light being friends telepathically indicated to me that I had finished the incarnation phase of my life long time ago.
Oh, so again, we're back at the same point with Nanci, where she's being told what she's done, or the path she's been on, and that she she finished that old stale reincarnating to Earth thing long ago. But yet, here we are, Nanci, talking face to face. Well, Ethernet to Ethernet connection. And I mean, it's just, you're here just like all the rest of us. But at the same time, you've been convinced that this is somehow like a mission for you. But it's no different than all the others. I mean, many people who have NDEs talk about how they're here on a mission and that they have something to complete. And I'm not crapping on you. I'm just saying that, we've all been taken for a ride. We've all been given specific narratives that led us to this point to incarnate here. Again.
My 5 light being friends telepathically indicated to me that I had finished the incarnation phase of my life long time ago.
Again, they told her.
And they were saying they couldn't believe that I chose to come into human life this time and place, because I always made a terrible human, and I never really got along that well with the human body or with other humans. And I was just pretty much insane for doing it. But I did. I volunteered. I'm one of those people who's up for punishment. And I've done it many times in my spiritual life. So, because I had finished my reincarnation phase, I didn't see that part of the afterlife. I was aware that it was there, and I got downloads of information about it.
Downloads of information about it, meaning she received the information, just like we were talking about earlier. It wasn't something that was organic. It was received. Download means received.
But that part had finished my reincarnation phase. I didn't see that part of the afterlife. I was aware that it was there, and I got downloads of information about it, but I didn't go there. Instead, I went to the...
But you're here, Nanci. See, that's the problem, is that you're here, like all of us. So who's to say that you weren't taken for a ride and, separated from source and all this other stuff to manipulate you back here and make you feel like you had some sort of reason for being here that was mission based. I mean, when we really boil down Nanci's NDE, it's not much different than all the others. I mean, it's got quite a few different aspects and a little bit of twist, but at the same time, I think the Matrix basically says, okay, Nanci is next on the list. Okay, Nanci, well, we need to accomplish ABC. to get to XYZ, and whatever we got to say to you, and if we have the memory wipe abilities is on top of it to make you forget certain things or believe in certain things due to the gaps, then we got you. Next person in line, please. The Matrix bat phone is clogged up and it needs to be picked up because, you know, Nanci, you're just like us. We've all gone through this and we're all here. But the Matrix has its certain ways to make us feel special, or that we have this mission, or that we have this and that to do. But that's the furthest thing from the truth, because we've all been taken for a ride. And again, my heart goes out to you. I hope you see some of this before you do leave your physical body.
That part of the afterlife. I was aware that it was there, and I got downloads of information about it, but I didn't go there. Instead, I went to the next phase of life, which is where we live completely beingless, just as mental energy or as a personality without form. A consciousness without form.
Okay, so that wraps up the good old Nanci segment. Thank you, Nanci, for sharing your experience with us. And yeah, I mean, it's a very unique NDE. It's a very unique set of outcomes that occurred, but there's quite a few interesting admissions too that correlate with other patterns that we see, and those patterns help to cement the case for the Matrix reincarnation soul trap. Now, as I said at the beginning, discernment is key with everything, but the key points are in the thumbnail: focus, attention, intention. Because that's the key to everything. That's really the key. I mean, it's amazing how this statement that's on the thumbnail, the first paragraph there, really drives it home in what we've been talking about here together for months and months and months and months, or 2 years. So when you leave, you want to have and I would say start this today if you have not already, to have a sovereign path, a liberated path, a path of non-interference where you are not going to be messed with when you cross over, because that's your intention. You're focusing on it. You're applying your attention and intention to make sure that that's the result you're going to get. They're not even going to mess with you when you cross over. That's my constant affirmation 3 times a day. Once when I wake up, once during the middle late afternoon, and then once before I go to bed. And the reason why I do it before I go to bed and when I wake up is because we're in that dream world state. In that dream world state, we don't know what the hell's going on, because most of the time we don't have any recollection of it. Some people have better recollection than others, but the whole purpose is to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. So you're putting it out there that, you know, whatever may have occurred in your dream state is simply null and void. Because for me, I need to be fully lucid and aware. You know, focus, attention, intention. All that stuff needs to be applied so I know what the hell happened and plan accordingly. So if I'm not aware of what happened in my dream state, who knows what types of agreements were being made? And I think that goes for all of us. It's just the safer option to go with to make sure that you protect yourself. You know, that's all. And my hope in the long term is to reach a point where astral projection can possibly lead to liberation and sovereignty instead of kind of waiting it out, like being able to take matters into our own hands in some form. But I am not talking about the other thing. I'm talking about strictly astral projection. But at the same time, while we're here, the most important thing to do is to continue to learn, right? It's to continue to build up that freaking intention. Experience and intention are key, because the longer you're kind of hanging around and adding knowledge to your spirit database, so to say, the better chance you have. And that's kind of where I leave things, because it's really important to consider that direction for liberation purposes. It's like, Wayne Bush and I were talking about this in our previous talks. I think actually a couple of them, on how, building that experience and knowledge database is so important, because then when the time does come, you're as prepared as you possibly could be. So why give these parasites any sort of upper hand? Take full advantage of the time that you do have, and act accordingly to protect yourself. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So, I mean, we've made it this far. We've made it this far. We've lived who knows how many lifetimes here and been stuck in the cogs of the astral realm wheels. Yet, want to check out early? No. Do what you got to do to make sure that you have the most optimal result possible. This is not some game, this is serious business. This is your freaking existence. It's your liberation. So I hope that message came through loud and clear, because I think it's truly important. And there's a reason why I think, Wayne is saying that, I'm saying that, and I believe Dan has said that too. And it's just, it can't hurt to have as much time on your side to do what you need to do, so you have the optimal conditions possible and intention set out there when it comes. So yeah, you get what I'm saying. I don't need to keep saying it over and over again. Okay, so all right, I think what I'm gonna do is play a little bit of music and check in with the chat. Let's see if it works. There we go. There we go. right. It is good to see you, my friends. Scroll up the chat a little bit. Ed, good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight. Chained Minds Asylum, always good to see you. Chained Minds Asylum says David Oakford is a genuine NDEer. Search him real quick. Name's not. Oh, you know, that is so freaking funny. I was just re-listening to his earlier today. I just didn't have the name for him. Wow. That's an interesting synchronicity. Louis C says, be specific with mantras. Extra specific. Absolutely. I mean, that's so important. I'm 100% with you, my friend. It's all about us making sure that we have the optimal result possible and optimal conditions possible, knowledge and wisdom wise. You know, the language is another one we can. I'm not even going to go too deep in that, but you know, language and etymology and all that. I mean, sometimes we're saying things we shouldn't be saying, but you know, the point is drive that intention out there and make it specific, extremely specific. So yeah, 100% with you, Lewis. Ken from the 151 Project, good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Ken says, I have been dreaming all the time last few months. Energy is changing dramatically. It is not usual for me. Good, man. Good. Stick with it. Stick with it. And if you have a dream journal, or maybe take some notes on some of the dreams that are more prolific, go with it. I just wanted to throw out there really quick, if you've been enjoying the stream, please consider hitting the like button so we can get this video into more people's feeds. Thank you. Let's see. Chained Minds Asylum says, yeah, Yahweh is quite a psychotic character. Absolutely. Yes. DB says, all religions started after the prophet passed away, by others using it for control. Perhaps. Or it was just all in a narrative all along. Tough to say. Niall says, I will be fully aware when this shell dies. There you go. There you go. I'm with you. That's the intention you want out there, right? Yeah, type it, say it, implement it into your dreams if you can. You know, proclaim it before bed, when you wake up, during the day. Just cover your bases. That's what it's all about. Conscious Soul says, I say it over and over again throughout the day. I'm getting out. End of story. Hell yeah. That's it. That's the way to go. You'll be just fine, Conscious Soul. You'll be just fine. 432 Hertz. Good morning. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well today. Vince and Laura. Top of the morning. Top of the morning to you, give me. Let's see. Sanskritic says, erroneously, Buddhist has become a religion, but it's traditionally taught as a philosophy, a way of life, an approach to accumulating knowledge. Yep. Yeah. Like everything, everything's been tainted, but I still think, it's Buddhism came from Hinduism, and then it's tough to say because we're so in the dark about a lot of origins of things, and how many sects were out there and what each ones were teaching. All we can really base it off of is where we exist in today. So I see Okay, for instance, there was a period of my life where I was seriously considering becoming a Zen Buddhist monk. I've talked about this before, and I went to first I was dabbling in and out of Tibetan Buddhism, and then I kind of started to see a lot of the crap in that, and the whole intelligence community links with that as well. And I hovered over to Zen Buddhism, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he actually just died about a week ago at age of 95. But I spent a month in one of the monasteries. Well, I was seriously trying, well, actually a little over a month, but trying to consider if it was the right path for me. And then I went to a few retreats around the country. I had an amazing first retreat where it was the most incredible experience I've to date. Well, second most incredible experience I've had to date over the course of I think like a week. And so then I stayed at the monastery for the month after that, and then I went to the West Coast for the retreat that they had this kind of traveling retreat where the monks and would go from monastery to monastery throughout the world and have the retreats. So then I went to the one on the West Coast in San Diego, and I had the most hell-like experience you can imagine. So I went from having this blissful, incredible, amazing experience to the darkest of dark night of the soul experiences in a matter of 5 or 6 weeks. And I still came back and was considering to do it, but something told me that, you know, I'm just not going to find the answer there. And the more I dug into everything, and you know, some Buddhists think that, you know, you got to keep coming back to cleanse the world and you know, and help people and all this other stuff. And I mean, it's tough stuff. And then you have the whole deception of different realms, like the Bardo realms in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where, you know, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta traverse, you gotta have all this stuff in place in order to liberate yourself. And you know, if you're good enough and you get through this realm and get through that realm, then maybe, you know, you'll come out the other side and you'll reach nirvana and liberation. And I mean, it's a trap like all the others. It's a trap. But I connected with it on a huge level when I was going through it. But something, it was always that voice in the back of the head saying, no, something's missing. And luckily I didn't go forward. But, you know, it can, you know, Zen Buddhism, particularly through some of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, are extremely helpful for everyday life. Because you still need to live in the real world. I mean, we're still here. Well, not the real world, but you know what I'm saying. You still gotta live day-to-day life. Really shouldn't call it real world, but gotta live that day-to-day life. And if you can find practices that can help you, go for it. As long as it's not taking away from your sovereignty and liberation and all that, then go for it. Do what you need to do. But there's a lot of value in many of his teachings. Just don't get sucked into it. You don't need to go to the sanghas and all this other stuff. I mean, if I will say that if you want some sort of if like just to get away and meet a good group of people who are not going to try and force anything on you and just kind of chill, it's a good experience to check out some of the retreats. They come around every 2 years, and you can walk away there feeling amazing and meet an amazing group of people, and then you just go back to doing your thing. Just don't get sucked in, because I came very close, but there's just like any, you feel good, and that's where they can get you. They can get you when you start to have the euphoric meditations and you're connecting with some of the teachings, but then you got those red flags out there, and they're like getting you. So I'm not trying to push anything, but just saying sometimes certain areas of can just help better our daily lives, and if that's what you need at some point, go for it. But if you don't. Let's see. Ken says, yes, I've spoken with few others who are having massively vivid dreams now. A lot going on in this world. Yes. Yeah, a lot going on in the world for sure. Soul Survivor says, get a tattoo on your forehead that says, no consent, don't come back. So you see it and remember when you're looking down at your floppy body. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Hey, I will just say that, if that's what you got to do to help yourself, go for it. I am going to get a tattoo that says, do not resuscitate. But, why not add, I'm not going to put it on my forehead, but I do like the concept of, you're looking down and then you're kind of having that confirmation. I actually kind of like that. The concept's pretty good. But yeah, I am going to get a tattoo that says do not resuscitate, and something with consent and denying consent and having liberation on it, all in one. And I'm also working on getting some of the legal paperwork set up, so not God, but something should happen, then I'll be all good. Let's see. Michael says, would it be easier to be deceived if you die in your sleep? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think, Michael, from what I've seen, it seems that a good portion of those who have NDEs they're lucid. They're capable. I mean, they might be confused for a brief few moments, but most people will look down at their body and realize that they've left it and they've died. And then you have the segment of the population, like we were talking about not that long ago, how those who have something like Alzheimer's, dementia, there are moments called terminal lucidity, and it usually happens in the last hours or days before they pass, and it's as if they've sprung to life and had this amazing just recovery, when in fact that's just a sign that they've got very minimal time left with you. I saw it happen with my grandmother. I saw it happen with my father, my grandmother had dementia and Alzheimer's. My father had a rare brain disease a few years after, and terminal lucidity was present in both of them, and it's very, very common amongst those who leave when they're leaving. So, you know, they're completely lucid and aware, so it makes you wonder what that's all about. Conscious Soul says, conscious out-of-body experiences are the key to escaping this hell reality. I think so too. I think they're a big part of it. I do. I'm with you. I mean, what's better than us familiarizing ourselves with our true state and realizing our true powers within our creator being abilities, and being able to do a little trial and error with intention and those creator being abilities, so to say. I mean, they're all the same thing, but you know, putting them to task and you know, having that leg up when the time does come. .32 says, I tell myself every day that this is my last lifetime. I sense it's important to keep stating this to myself. Good, good, good. Let yourself be your guide. I think that's a very, very good one to go with. Okay, let's see. Soul Survivor says, if people stop coming back, there will be nothing to cleanse. Yeah, good luck with that. Far too many people buy into the illusion. That's a big portion of why we are where we are. Stan says, interesting story, FC. Similar here. We can use all available texts as we see fit. Buddhists actually say, question everything we teach. Yep. Yeah, I just always, I mean, throughout my entire life, I always found myself floating in and out of everything and anything I get my hands on. But, you know, I came real close to falling into Zen Buddhism. It was pretty damn close, so I'm really happy that I kept questioning and didn't just conform and move into the monastery. Queen of Swords says, please, Nancy, open your eyes. It doesn't love you. It's just projecting the energy it gathered from us and throwing it back at you. Well said, Queen. Well said. I'm with you. Laura says, definitely sounds interesting, FC. Thank you, Laura. It's good to see you as always. Glenn Starr is asking about trajectories and escaping. I wouldn't worry about that. Everybody leaves their body. I don't think it matters whatsoever what position your body is at. 45-degree angle thing, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's all about that intention. Zetsu says, large tattoo on my chest that says, don't consent again, no more illusions would be great. Absolutely. That'd be badass. Yeah, Transhumanist Cult Awareness Network says, a few days before my grandpa died, he started talking to his dead brother. Yep, that's how they line it up. I mean, that is so common and typical. It's not even funny. Deathbed visions and visitations is an awesome area to do your research in, because just like with past life regressions, pre-birth memories, and some trip reports like DMT, ayahuasca, you see the manipulation, but boy, is it raging in deathbed vision visitations. Both family members that I had who passed also were talking to beings at the end too. I think it's extremely common, if not, consistent, that it happens. I would think it happens to everyone, because it's kind of like a primer. It's all about getting someone ready to consent before they've even left the freaking body. It's, again, some real diabolical stuff. We see 33. Hope you're doing good today, brother. Good to see you. Says, our human brains require constant repetition. I have learned and forgotten Arabic. What does that say about our brains? Saying this is our last lifetime. Every day is key. Yep. 100%. Yeah, I mean, just the whole concept that the brain is this information holder is also suspect in and of itself. I seriously think it's, I find it interesting you learned Arabic and you forgot it. So, where is that stored? I don't think anything is really stored in the brain. I think the brain is just like a relay system, possibly into the ether or who knows where. But I don't think, because there's just so much information missing about the brain in general, then it deserves to be questioned. If they can't give us proper answers, and we're talking like if there's a lot missing there, then it would go without saying that if they can't, then maybe it's all this information that we are told is localized to the brain is in fact not in the brain at all, and perhaps out in the ether or in some sort of controlled environment in the sky or in another realm. Who the heck knows? I just like to question that, because it's freaking nuts. Okay, let's see. All right, my friends, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Getting pretty tired here. Just really quickly before I go, I have, for those interested or those present who have a membership to the Last Timers Club levels 2 and 3, we have the monthly members meeting this Sunday, January 30th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And a link is available in the description tab. And also have a Twitter, an Instagram, a D-Live, an Odyssey, and a couple YouTube backup channels. And there is a website coming. I'm still working on that. And I'm also working on an alternative chat option, because I don't want to rely on Discord anymore. I don't like what I'm seeing there. So my hope is that over the next month or two, a lot of that stuff gets resolved, and there's just I'm also gonna set up the website to be like a resource center for a variety of different things that pertain to this topic. So people who are new to it, or are otherwise on the fence or still trying to gain additional knowledge on the topic, they can go there and, you know, go nuts and find different things to help them prove it to themselves or further their gnosis in this most important topic. So, all right, I am about to pass out. I'm just tired as hell. If you don't mind hitting the like button on the way out, if you enjoyed this stream, that would be great. And I will see you guys very soon. Thanks so much. All the best.